Well, China may or may not be able to revive its economy, but it never has any trouble reviving territorial disputes. The latest flashpoint is with the Philippines. We told you about what happened on Sunday. A Chinese ship collided with a Philippine vessel. It was a collision. China was attempting to blockade the smaller boat to keep it from moving about in Filipino waters. Of course, China says these are disputed waters. We'll get to Beijing's ridiculous claims in a moment. But first, let's look at the latest developments to this clash at sea. It sent alarm bells ringing in the US. Now, Washington and Manila are longtime allies, and Joe Biden thought that he needed to remind China of this.
I want to be clear. I want to be very clear. The United States defense commitment to the Philippines is ironclad. The United States defense agreement with the Philippines is ironclad. Any attack on the Filipino aircraft vessels or armed forces will invoke our mutual defense treaty with the Philippines.
Biden is talking about a treaty that was signed in 1951. The one he says is ironclad. Here's what the treaty says. If one country is attacked, the other will come to its aid. Practically, it means that if the Philippines is attacked, the US will defend it. That's the treaty. And Biden has just reaffirmed that commitment, calling it ironclad. Perhaps he thought he needed to say this out loud, both to remind Beijing and to reassure Manila. Because the US and China have been working on their ties. We told you about this yesterday. Top officials from both sides, America and China, have been meeting regularly. They're working to set up a big meeting, a meeting between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping. It could happen next month. Plus, Xi Jinping has said that he is willing to cooperate with the US to manage the differences. And as we speak, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is in Washington. He'll be there till Sunday, and reports say he's meeting Joe Biden tomorrow. That meeting was already going to be tough. But after Biden's speech, it will only get more awkward. How did China respond to that speech? Along expected lines so far, this is what they said.
The US is not party to the South China Sea issue. It has no right to get involved in a problem between China and the Philippines. The US promise of defending the Philippines must not hurt China's sovereignty and maritime interests in the South China Sea. And it must also not enable and encourage the illegal claims of the Philippines.
You heard her. She said the US has no right to get involved. Translation, don't interfere as we bully our smaller neighbors. That's what China is essentially saying. And for those of you who still don't know, China is quite greedy when it comes to the South China Sea. It's a disputed region. Let's show you on the map. This is South China Sea. And this is China's infamous 9-dash line. Everything within this line is claimed by China, the entire area. Beijing says it's theirs. And this goes against international law. It breaches the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Now, what does that law say? What does the UN law say? It says all nations have an exclusive economic zone in the waters around their country. So the area around your shores belongs to you. How much area? About 370 kilometers away from a nation's shores. This is their exclusive economic zone. This is the law. And this means that China's 9-dash line is a farce, a way to bully its neighbors, a way to grab their resources for itself. And these are all smaller players. They cannot match China's military, like the Philippines. On its own, the Philippines cannot fight China, which is why it needs help from the US. In fact, all the countries located around the South China Sea face Beijing's aggression. And that's the reason why they've let Washington set up bases and alliances all over the region.
When I was asked, when we put together the deal, I was asked by Xi Jinping, were we just trying to surround China? I said, no, we're not surrounding China. We're just making sure that the sea lanes remain open.
Well, that explanation seems to be a bit disingenuous, but the fact remains that China's neighbors need the US to protect themselves. If Beijing wants the US to stay out of the South China Sea, it needs to give up its expansionist tendencies. But given China's record, that's asking for too much.